Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. So, I don't know what's going on with the notifications. Hopefully, you guys can tell me if you're getting notifications early, or if there's a special setting that you need to do for early notification. But where I get a notification sometimes a half hour prior to a live stream, um, you know, then that doesn't happen with mine, and I don't know why, and I don't know if it's just because I'm the host of the live stream, or I don't know if it has to do with going from StreamYard. I'm not really sure. So if anybody has any idea how that works, I would love some insight on that. Sometimes Gopher Girl, just like Randy said, Gopher Girl sometimes has to remind me that I'm doing a live stream. So anybody who can help me figure that out, I would really appreciate it. So whether you're new or you've been here before, say hello in the chat. Let me know you're here. Let me know you can hear me. That would be good too, because when you're on this end of a live stream, you never know if somebody can hear you or not. I could hear it on my cell phone. I could hear the intro music, but help me out and let me know you're here. The whole idea of this podcast or this live stream is to motivate me to work through the NMRA's Achievement Program and to make some friends out there and get together and just hang out and talk model railroading and trains and whatever other hobbies you have. There are lots of great hobbies out there, and I learn from them all. So I hope to hear from those who have other hobbies as well. Welcome, Eileen, Matt, and Evan. Appreciate you showing back up and being some of my repeat viewers. So tonight we'll go through the additional progress I had working on the Comet 4 cab car for New Jersey Transit. Then talk about some additions to the underbody that I did. I promised to show you Onshape, the program that I've been using to design some 3D printable items, and which was the subject of one of my show and tells previously. And then we'll have some show and tell of the cement plant that I've been working on. We're kind of looking at some of my work is going to be unfinished work because I've moved on to other things, or I've stalled because of different things that have come up. I've stalled because of this AP program, whatever it may be. I have a few projects out there that I got started, and so this is one I wanted to show you and kind of explain why. And so that'll be our show and tell. And thank you, Matt, for confirming that you can hear me. That's appreciated. So let me pull up the shell, and I wish I had some pictures now, because what I'm finding with this camera is, especially with this shell, is I don't have a focus for this camera. It's a webcam app that's on my iPad, and I can't find the built-in webcam on our computer. It's not working, and I do have an external one, but can't find that right now. At some point, I might set up my phone because that has some better that I can focus with better. And I'll look for some other apps maybe too. So Evan uses Onshape in his engineering classes. Maybe he can teach me a thing or two, because I learned, it's one of those things you gotta keep practicing and keep doing it. If you kind of stall and don't do it and don't make it a regular part of your day, there are things that are, easy to forget and processes that are easy to forget. And so a lot of my builds are pretty clunky, and have probably extra steps that aren't needed and extra problems. And I'll show you some of that because I've got it logged in. If it hasn't logged out on me, we're good. All right, so I didn't do a whole lot this week. I did get busy with work. I had a couple people out, and so I was doing my job and their job as well to try and make sure things were running smoothly. So took extra time, and so let's see here. Don't want this washed out, so the color is a little off, but okay, I'm going to stop complaining about that. So what did I do? Well, the lights that were recommended by the author to use are 1.5 millimeter LEDs, which is really, really small. And I'm used to working, the smallest I'm used to working with is 3 millimeter. And I'll show you the difference in those. I have a couple of examples. But what I did this week is, and again, because of this focus is pretty bad, and I'm trying to get it up to the camera here, I used a little bit of, I think it was O10 styrene, to fill the holes for the marker lights, so those red lights, and then I obviously painted them the silver. Not sure you can tell, it's not really good here, but I was I didn't have the right drill size, so I drilled smaller, and and even though it's O10, I used the drill because I can't cut very well. That's not one of my strengths. When it comes to model building, is cutting is one of my weaknesses. But I managed to, after lots of practice tries and getting the, I used 2 drill bits to just kind of drill out the right size holes, and then got those in there. It's going to be kind of a pain to get those the LEDs in there. Luckily, these are just glued in and they come out real easy, so it gives me a little more space to work. Gopher Girl is not on right now, but I might have to use her small hands to get in there to help me with those get those LEDs in place. Let me see if you can see. Why don't I just see if you can see in there? They're actually in different positions on the different ends, so I had to cut them slightly differently, but you see the styrene in there. And then the other part that I worked on was obviously getting those painted, but then also getting these little end pieces painted as well. So now those are ready to actually, I won't do them right away. They'll probably be a last thing, but I'll create the grab irons that go on there, and I'll get those into those styrene pieces, and that'll finish off detail there. But we'll want to get the lights in here as well. And you can see here for these marker lights, I also got that in. And then, so, eventually I'll glue those back on, but they can stay loose for now. And so that's what I got done so far with the shell. So talking about these LEDs, these 1.5 millimeter and 3 millimeter. So this one is a pre-wired that I got from Amazon, and it was like 20 of these for very cheap, like $6 or something like that. And you can see they have a resistor built in here, and that's a 3 millimeter bulb. In contrast, this little guy here That's a 1.5 millimeter bulb. And so that's why that's going to fit better in the um, in the um, in the car. And this will need a resistor. I was going to try and get these the 4 of them prepared. To me, this isn't a very hard thing. Understanding resistors, there are all kinds of guides out there. I don't understand them all, so I hope they're labeled, and I just want to make sure they work with higher um, 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 voltage. Because if your voltage is too high, you'll blow out these lights. So that's why this needs a resistor, and that's why this needs a resistor. And the pack I got came with the resistor, so I don't have to worry about figuring out which resistor. So I will get this soldered onto one end there, and then we'll get some wires. I have some really thin wiring. You can see this is thicker wiring. That was the only downside. You'll see you won't see the lights, but the lights that I lit an engine that you'll see in some of the pictures I have with this, and it was really hard to pack in these wires and get the lights where they needed to be because the wires are thick. So I could always cut these somewhere up here and solder on some much thinner wire. These were, I think these were this is 24 AWG wire, and I think I have some 28 or 30. That was prepackaged wiring that I got because I had a birthday credit somewhere. But this package here of the 1.5s is you'll see Minitronics Corp at a lot of your local hobby shops. Now, this is for the 12 pieces. This is quite affordable. I think it was $10. Yes, you can get them cheaper online. If you don't have Amazon Prime, or you're going through another retailer, you may have to pay shipping, and that adds into it. So I was fine going to the hobby shop and getting these because it evened out essentially. Now, just to understand, for anybody who may not understand this battery is a 3-volt battery. This if it's on camera, that would be helpful. That's a 3-volt battery, and most people will know this is a 9-volt battery. If I hooked this LED without a resistor, or this one without a resistor to a 9-volt, that's going to be too strong and it'll blow it out. So, but if I hook it to a 3-volt battery, this will be just fine. And that's what the resistor will do, is it brings the voltage down going through the light. And if you bear with me for just a minute, there is an indicator on here. So here it is, and on the camera it's always going to look a little different. That's looks really kind of bright and not red, but it is very red. There you can see it glowing on the on there. But that's that is that. Now, just to show you the difference here too, if I do this right. So here's the 3-volt. Let's see if you can see this. So this is the light from using the 3-volt battery. Now, since this has the resistor on it, I can go ahead and attach it to the 9-volt battery in my hand here, if it'll cooperate. Maybe it won't. So let's just do it this way. Ooh, sorry, folks. But you should be able to see the difference, the brightness difference. So even though the resistor's in there, there's more power coming from this. So just a little lesson in why we need resistors. And I'm not, like I said, an expert on the resistor sizes and what all the rings mean to get it to, and uh, this one is a 470 ohm resistor. I don't know what's in this one. I don't think it was indicated. No, it wasn't indicated on the package. But that's a little mini lesson in doing that, in doing lighting, for those that are interested in. It's very basic for me. I just need to know what I need to put together. I can do the put together part. So that's what I've been thinking about and working on. I seem to have shocked Randy a bit with the lighting there. So, but there are better experts than me, so don't take it from me. Just know that with your hobby lighting, you're likely going to need a resistor. And get some help with figuring out what resistor to use. And there's Randy, and leave it to Randy because I know the formula, but I know it because I've watched YouTube videos, but if you quiz me on it, I'd have no idea. So that brings up another item. So a couple things with the underbody. So you'll notice this obnoxiously white looking thing here. And that is the pilot, which I didn't really understand what a pilot was. I know them because it's fun to call them cow catchers, which is very small for the ones that are on they're trying to catch very small cows, I think. But using the prototype photo that I showed last week, I jimmied together this cow catcher. Had to make sure there was enough clearance because I added a coupler. The prototype has a coupler on there because they certainly can couple to other cars. Obviously, as the cab car, they generally don't, but they certainly could. And so this took a lot of finagling and a lot of building up of the styrene pieces to give it. There's three 040 by 040 styrene pieces there, which is a little smaller than the article suggested, but I didn't have the size they suggested. But I was able to build it up, stabilize it with the other styrene. So it's on there as I touch it. And I say it's on there pretty solid. If you don't mess with it, it's going to stay on there. I checked clearance on the track, and there are no issues on the track either, and with movement on it. So I would call that a success. It's not pretty. It's not going to win any appearance awards, but we'll get it painted at some point and move on from there as we keep moving. Oh, yeah. So the other thing I wanted to bring up was, wiring the lights and talking about a decoder and everything. So there's no motor to attach this to, and so the wiring of any decoder or the lights would be wired directly to the wheels, and the wheels have to have some kind of pickup. So these vehicles came with this pickup, and it just simply sits and sort of touches the metal wheels on here. So my question to the group, because this is not something I'm expert in, I certainly already have the holes. I made sure that I had holes cut, which was directions in the article. So each end has these holes, but what do I hook to? How do I hook up the wires, whether it's a decoder or if I'm going to wire lights directly to it? I could use advice on that because I'm not sure how to go about doing that. And I don't think I'm close to that, because the other question I posed last week, and I didn't really get any comments, or question I haven't gotten any comments on the replays or anything. I'm still trying to understand if I can use a decoder a motor decoder, so that has motor function, or if I have to use just a function decoder. Um, I'm just curious about that. I'm still thinking about, do I want to add sound to the cab car itself, or just keep sound on the engine that's going to be pushing? Um, and the other thing is, I technically could add a motor to this and have that sort of set up. That's not something I really want to do, but it would be. But I still plan to have the lights functioning. Um, so um, I certainly could. Certainly, anybody who has any advice on that, or has good videos or art to watch, or articles, please send them my way so that I can move forward with this and get it lit. So that was the limited work that I've done so far this week, or have done this week, and hopefully I'll get moving. Hopefully this weekend I'll be able to get at least the lights soldered, and then we can figure out next steps with the interior lighting. The so so twofold for Onshape. So some of the Gopher Girl made it. She's done with her shopping trip, which means she has some chocolate for me. I can't wait till after the stream so I can get some chocolate, because I am addicted to that stuff. Okay, so that so that I stay focused here, and don't get derailed by chocolate. So we're talking about Onshape as a CAD program to use, and I mentioned there were a number of CAD programs that you could use out there, and they're all different levels of ability for those. And I'm no engineer, so I'm never going to have. I'm never going to be at that level. But the more I use it, the better. Better things get that I'm working on. So just okay, yeah, I certainly could. Yeah, Randy, I could do that. I certainly could have multiple decoders in there. I could spend a lot of money and get, like Lock Sound has a function decoder with sound. Um, it's like $66, but I have a decoder in an engine that I'm not using because I can't get the engine to work right. But it's a new decoder, and it's a motor decoder, but it has lighting function. So I'm wondering if I take that out of that engine and use it in this, um, would it work? Would it work to consist it with the engine so that the lighting works with it? You know, or can I just use it as independently, still as a function decoder, and use it for lighting? Okay, so Onshape. So I don't have a paid plan for Onshape, and let's get rid of my. Let's do that. There we go. I don't have um, a paid account, which you can have with Onshape. So all the things I've been working on are public. So anybody who logs in can certainly um, obtain them and work on them. So I can search for somebody else's and pull it in and do my own work on it if I wanted to. So the first um, the first item that I did in Onshape, because it was a build along with New Tracks modeling, was this girder bridge, which to me there's only one error in it, And the person who designed it and did the program never answered my question on it, but but he took us step by step through how to do all these things down to all the rivets. And you can see the one thing that didn't work right was the spacing here for these. Now I don't want to back out of all of these things. You can see on the left is basically all of the steps, and there are lots and lots of steps. And I don't want to back out. I probably could find them where it was and try and do some kind of fix on them. What I want to do is I want to go back and re-watch everything, kind of build along again, but where the measurements kind of messed up here, I'll want to do my own work to see if I can fix that. I haven't had this printed yet. Again, my cousin's, I don't know what you call him, my cousin's husband has the 3D printer. Thank you, Evan. I appreciate that. Again, what I'm able to do is follow directions. And so this was not my creation, but you can see how intricate this thing gets and what you can create in here. And I haven't created anything like that on my own, but I certainly appreciate that. Anyway, so this was the first one I did, and it was again a build along, and I kept watching the videos over and over again to work through this. And then I found an old depot in a picture in a magazine somewhere. And I went through and I created this monster of a thing. I'm going to figure out what the notification is, but those are basically windows and doors. It's basically 3 giant parts. You have the building itself, you have the build of the platform, and then the stairs over here, and then there's little extensions on there as well. So just practicing, I just decided to try and build this. Haven't seen it printed yet or anything, like I said. Really, the only ones that were printed are here. So this was the bottom of the tank, and then the fuel stands, the actual stands. I actually had them print 3 of them. And so this is what I created. And he had his filament. He used a filament printer, and it had red filament, and so I had to paint those up. But those were the stands. So now, now that those were printed and I had them set up and everything, and I've used them, one of the things I would think to do would be to come in here and trim the top off of here, or split some of the top off of here because it's too high. So that's something I learned from the printing. And the nice thing about printers is, if you get this part and it doesn't fit, if you were to buy this for $6 or $7 or whatever in a store, you'd have to decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and modify it to make it fit better. And if it doesn't work, or you crack it or break it, then you're out those $6 or $7. The beauty of 3D printing is I could go and print as many of these as I want with somebody who will print them for me, or or I can modify them, and I can always go back to the original. One of the things I like about Onshape is the ability to actually go back through and find, if you have something you want to modify, you can go back through the steps. All of your steps are there for you to see, and all the parts are there for you to see and to go back through. So it's not like some other things where it gets buried and you don't have. In other words, I could go back into, so let's go back to, let's go back here, sorry. to the where the mistake was on the girder bridge. So I think it was. So I could actually find this by clicking on it. It's going to highlight the parts. Now, you might break some connections along the way, but I could find the that linear pattern is what created this. And so I could find that, and I can make adjustments to that without disturbing the rest of the build. And that's a wonderful thing. It's good. And, as people get used to using 3D printing software or CAD software to design their own things, as long as they're into designing their own things or they're comfortable with it, it's going to eliminate some of the retail out there in the future, I think. Certainly, I don't love buying now because I always think I can make stuff. Unfortunately, I had some success with Onshape and building stuff, and so now I don't want to do that. And just to show you what I mean is when I wasn't making progress on any of my building, I went in and I started to design, and I was up late one night. I started to design the same underbodies that I'm working on. So I'll show you one of the other underbodies. That's as far as I got. Well, I suppose I can't show both, but if you remember what they look like, this looks pretty darn close. And I was measuring everything. To me, this looks bigger than it does on the actual model, the hole, but by measurement, it should be the way it should be on there. With this model, I don't have to build the step wells because I just built the outsides of the step wells because they're covered up. Built the underframe here with the bolsters. They should all measure correctly, although I am horrible at measuring, and we've been through this. Here's the other side of it, and this middle piece I dug out about 1 millimeter of the middle piece for the weight, and then I started building some of the other parts. Here's the crossbars. Here's the main junction box that's in the middle of the underbody. And I started to build this way. Here I've started building wiring to go on the center sill. And then I started messing with assembly, and this is a new thing. You don't have to use assembly. You can build without this. You can build this all together, but you can see here I'm stuck here. So maybe Evan, maybe someday you can take a look at my build and tell me what I'm doing wrong here, but I can't get these to settle on here. The other thing that's neat, that's very easy to do, instead of cutting and shaving it, as you can see here, the center sill has a bevel to it. That was the directions in the article that I didn't do, but it was a very easy operation to do on here. So I think the bug is bit because I did well with the oil tank. And then here what I did when I talked to Michael, my cousin's husband, he said that these parts for the nozzle on his 3D printer are too small. So I don't know that I'll be able to build these out. These I'm going to maybe have to make with styrene. And that may be just because that's his printer, and maybe there are smaller nozzles out there, but I have to go with I have to go with what printer I have. Um, Evan, in Onshape, you can search for DMRJ. You should be able to find my stuff. I don't know if it shows it my name on here somewhere. See, they want me to try professional, and I'm not professional. But you should be able to search and find me on there. But you can search DMRJ or search for some of these are unique names. Search for Comet 4 on your body. If you want to look for that bridge, it's NTM build along dash DMRJ. Search for that, see if you can come up with it. And there's no way I want to be the one to tell folks how to use Onshape. It's similar to other 3D or I'm sorry, CAD programs, and there's a distinction. You don't want to say this is a 3D program. It's a CAD, computer aided drawing program, or CAD program, because it could be used for other applications, for cutting metal. It could be used for a laser cutter. So if I was building a kit, a craftsman kit, I would use a CAD program like this to create, and then the file would be sent to the laser cutter and cut the wood for it. The same way, essentially, as a file would go to a 3D printer from the CAD program. So there is that distinction. So that is Onshape without the technical parts of it. You can see this was an early one for me, was a passenger side. So I have a Bud passenger car before I found these. All you could ever find were Bud passenger cars, and I had it in N scale. So I attempted to build the side. This was my first kind of test print that I wanted to do. So I built the side of just one side, because I could flip this over. If I was building it, you flip it around, you have the other side of this particular car. So why does it look weird? Why is there like 3 parts? There wasn't a couple days ago, but one of the problems with printing is you have some limitations based on your build plate, and that build plate is however wide that build plate is, how far out you're going to be able to go with a build. So maybe some builds you have to go upward, and depending on, it works differently with filament and with resin printers. With filament, it builds on the build plate in layers, and it just keeps squirting out layers of heated plastic filament in the precise format that you would have. So Michael's printer, the build plate was too small for this. This was too long. So I came in the other day and used a function to cut it in 3 parts so that he can potentially have it in the center. The other thing he said that was interesting to learn, and you have to know, you have to play with it to understand, is on his, when the needle gets, or the nozzle gets further out on the plate towards the edges, he has less stability. So if you have a large piece for his, you have to have some stable drawings on the outsides, or you have to kind of maybe cut them up. So I wouldn't have thought, I didn't originally think of doing this until I used putty on the cab car, because now I'm confident enough that with the seams, I can make those seams hidden to some extent, so that it should still be presentable if he's able to print it. So, okay, so that is my Onshape rant, but I definitely wanted to show you that because I had promised to do so. All right. All right. So, no, I don't want to do that. What was I doing there? No, just trying to get out of present mode here. All right. So anyway, here is what I was looking at essentially when I was creating the 3D print or the CAD program CAD program drawing was what I had done so far. So instead of having these steples in there, I don't need them if I'm 3D printing myself. So I got those down. I can get these fronts in here to help support it if I need to. But here are your holes. Here's your center beam. Here are your bolsters, and that's where I put the kind of 1 millimeter slot for weights. But anyway, so hopefully that gives you a introduction, and that you'll that it piques your interest to just jump in and try it. Uh, Randy, yeah. Um, I think that I would probably go to you to for help with, why can't I draw this well? I know I've seen your if anybody hasn't seen Randy's stuff, his stuff is spectacular. And at our last modelers meet, which for some of you may know what a railroad prototype modelers meet is, ours is a little bit different for the Twin Cities division. Not just in name, but a little bit in function too. However, anyway, at the modelers meet, he was actually next to me where I had some of my stuff, and he was sitting there with just the tiniest little N scale cars that he had printed up. And there was also another person who had a 3D printer there, Colin, who's part of our group as well, who was showing his 3D prints. But Randy's prints are very good. So I would definitely go to you, Randy, for help with getting out of a mess I made with the sketch for sure. Yeah, I mean, if your printer, I mean, I've seen them there, they can be pretty small print um, plates for printing, and I've seen some large ones. But with anything larger, it's going to cost more, so you don't necessarily see those super huge ones that are in people's homes. But there are places that will print commercially for you. As Matt brought up last week, checking out your local library, definitely do that. There are libraries around that will 3D print or have a 3D printer for you to use. I know that mine don't. If you have any colleges and universities in your area, I would reach out to them. I'm sure they have printers on hand, especially if they have programs like engineering programs and things like that, who use CAD drawing as a regular part of their daily life. There's definitely a possibility that they have something. And if you have maker spaces in your area, I know in the Twin Cities area we had a bunch, and they sort of all moved out. And I think there's one left, but even they are moving a location right now. They're not even open, but maker spaces are great, not just for if they have 3D printers or laser printers, but they have spaces for makers to make what they want and what they can. The other unique thing that the Twin Cities has that I really haven't taken advantage of, but intrigued me when it was started to be talked about, we have two tool libraries, literally tool libraries, where you could take out or use space there that they have to use power tools and hand tools and all kinds of tools for whatever you need. So they took donations. They probably had some grants where they could buy some stuff, and you literally basically have a library card to take out tools instead of books. So that intrigued me as well. But everything with the Minnesota has to be really close. And even though it's not really that far away, to me, it's kind of far away, or that's my excuse. So I haven't taken advantage. But if you have something like that in your area, absolutely take advantage. Just jump in. Because if you're somebody who likes to create stuff, just jump in and try a CAD program anywhere you can, any kind. I've tried Tinkercad, and I think a lot of people like Tinkercad. I built the building on there. I don't know how good it was, but it's a more basic program than something like Onshape, and it uses predefined shapes a lot that you can use to build stuff. And so I think that's a good, what you would call an entry point to a CAD program. Blender is one that I didn't use it specifically, I would say, for CAD drawings like this. It's a pretty advanced program, and much harder, I think, to understand than Onshape is. But they all have the same basic functions. But what I use it for, there's a program called OpenShot, which is an open source video editing software, but it doesn't have all the tools. So it relies on other programs and applications. And one of them it relies on for making titles that they have predefined you can edit, but it takes you out to that. Another one, which a lot of people use for, I would say, a lot of them use for designing stuff, but I see more uses with paper and cardstock with Inkscape. So that's another one that you could use. But Blender, I would go out and I'd create titles, screens, or flying, or animated stuff for videos, and I would use Blender. So I didn't really know I was using a CAD program at the time, but I've seen it used. I saw somebody at an NMRA X event show us how she used Blender to create track, from the ties to the track itself. Yeah, Randy. I would agree, because I tried to go in and sort of learn it too, and I got stuck on the first lessons where I didn't really get as stuck. And maybe I needed something like New Tracks Modeling does with build-alongs, where I can just follow the directions and do what they do and kind of learn from that, and then move on from there. Now, if I had half a brain, maybe I could understand all of the engineering pieces of CAD programs and things like that and be better off, but I'm coming to terms with the fact that that's just not me. All right, so want to jump over and talk about our show and tell tonight. So bear with me for a moment while I get us set up for that, and I will be right back with you. All right, we are back, and I am going to um, just do one thing here. Apparently, I have to log into this crazy thing. And maybe it'll allow me to. All right, so let's bring it up. Okay. So I forgot to put together the picture that I needed for this, but tonight's show and tell is a project I'm doing to scratch build a Walthers kit. So I needed a cement plan. I didn't need a cement plan, but the original plans that I took from the interweb for the okay, that's bugging me. Hang on one second. So the original plans that I took from the internet for the switching layout that you see in the picture uh, called for a cement plant. Okay, I didn't have any specific direction that I was taking with it. I didn't have any theme or anything. So I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to take that direction so I could learn switching. This is all about learning how to switch cars out and things that I'm just not privy to because I'm not a railroader. Hey, Split Rock, how's it going? Good to see you tonight. Were you working tonight? So speaking of that, so Split Rock is uh, is an engineer for Union Pacific out here in Minnesota, and so he knows switching operations very well. Well, I don't, so this is why I built this. From that, I didn't quarrel with the suggested industries, and I was just going to go from there and learn how to do the operations. But I didn't agree with or like the fact that Walthers has two cement plans. I needed a more basic one. So the more basic one, there is an actual Medusa cement plant, which I don't think is in operation anymore, which they modeled after. But for all this plastic that you got, it was like anywhere I saw it anywhere from $45 to $52. And I just didn't want to spend the money. So I set out to start to build one. And so here are some shots of the buildings. It's basically 4 parts as is right now. So you have the shed where the cars go into. You have the conveyor that scoops up the raw materials and brings it up over here, and they would spill out onto or into the piping that would be above these silos. Here's another shot. So like I did find a spot temporarily where I could throw it onto the layout to take the picture. But I went through, I think, 3 or 4 iterations of at least the spur on the track plan. So where you're seeing it, that's the team track. And then there was a spur off of there where the cement plant would go. And I wasn't I was having trouble fitting it in correctly. And so I haven't put it on the layout yet or anything, but one modification I did, understanding the space I had in the corner, which is further back, was the Medusa plant had essentially 6 silos, and they were actually 2 pieces of plastic that you put together with 3 half silos on them, and it looked, if you did it upright, it could look okay. So I was like, I needed to find something thinner because I didn't have the space for that. It would make it too thick. And so I came up with the idea of these 4 silos, just straight, one line of the 4 silos. So can anyone guess what that is made of, the silos? I don't know if I have a closer picture, but I'm curious if anyone has any guesses to that. And I would say, as a hint, you got to be hungry to build these silos. And while I'm waiting for answers to that one, and Gopher Girl, you don't count with this because you know how those were made. You helped make them. Here, so the shed is styrene. It's preformed styrene. You can see a seam there because I was putting 2 pieces together. It's preformed styrene that's meant to look like it's from evergreen styrene, and it was meant to look like corrugated metal. And you can see some light weathering on it. That's kind of a dark picture there. Well, Evan, spot on. Those are Pringles and other Pringles-like snack containers. So, okay, so on the shed here, you'll see some light weathering. Those were one of my first uses of weathering powders. I didn't want this to be over weathered or beaten down like my depot that I did. I considered it still in use because I was going to switch cars. So there's no reason why it couldn't be a little rusted out, but I didn't want to overdo it. So I only did a little bit of weathering on there. And I suppose if I fulfill this build, there are other things I could do to it to make it a little more weathered, or put some signs on, or different things that I could do there to detail it. So it's not really detailed other than the weathering. So here are the parts put together in a really dark picture, and I don't know why I left that in. Here's a much lighter picture that I think looks a bit better. And again, so there are 4 of the Pringles cans. No, it was just what I had, what I got from wherever I got it from, honestly. I just wanted rolling stock to be on there. So what you can't see here was this whatever plastic this was super glossy. So I'm a little proud of the job I did, and I'll have to show it on another stream in full. But I got it so that it was not so glossy and plasticky. So I'll share some weathering techniques on that at some point. And but no, it wasn't a nod to them, but it certainly could be. I mean, what I've started to find is I've researched and found different cars out there, that there was quite a bit of freight traffic in New Jersey that we just didn't see. I didn't see. I focused mostly on passenger equipment, and you just didn't see as much on the Northeast corridor. But there were all these lines out there in New Jersey, and still are. there's actually a historical society out there that if I lived out there, I'd probably join, because that would be a lot of fun to learn about New Jersey Rail stuff. And they do some online clinics and things, and I try to get to those around Thursday nights, and I try to get to them when I can. So Brian, I hope so, and welcome to the live stream. I hope that I can, fill everybody's hearts with model railroading and bellies with food. What flavor of what flavor Pringles cans work best? As a matter of fact, I don't know if we were on a kick, and Gopher Girl, you can correct me on this one, but didn't we have a kick where we had like a ton of those with Cheetos, like Cheeto balls? I think were the snack of choice, and then maybe a couple other things. I don't know how. Maybe one or two were Pringles, but we were going. I think there for a while we were also getting Doritos. Like Doritos made these small little triangular chips, like little mini me Doritos chips, and they put them in those containers as well. So I know there are a few out there, but good call out, Ken, and appreciate you being here as well. Um, so so other parts of this, and so what I was doing is I was just taking a visual. Everybody complains about Walthers directions, but what they do have in their directions in their 1 or 2 pages is they just have all the parts in there, and then you have the picture, of course, that you can use on the box. And so the challenge for me was just to come up with, how do I design this, and how do I make it cheaper than that. And I think the Pringles cans definitely helped a little. When you get into styrene, it can get expensive. So the other parts of this are, again, the silo was just a styrene tube, and then I tried to visually match the support for the conveyor, and it didn't come out great, but for a first time it came out great. To make it look realistic, not so great. So the top is made of just another sheet of styrene. Originally, I had done 4 separate tops with cutting circular tops for styrene, and I, of course, I don't think I have it here with me. There is a tool, because I can't cut anything with styrene, but I found a tool, circular cutting tool, that really helped, and I cut some really great styrene circles, but I didn't end up using them here. I ended up going, when I was looking at the model more and more, they weren't really individual. They were joined by a top piece. And to make it just not look like a styrene sheet, I added this band around, and I think there was something like that, or something that seemed very separate from the silos, but I painstakingly wrapped the styrene strip around and trying to figure it out and get them together. And these are all of the cans are glued together. Another trick, I think in this picture you can see the Pringles cans wrap. So if as you all know, with those, all of the print on the outside of the cardboard is actually part of the cardboard, and it's glossy and slick and doesn't take paint well. I tried to get primer on there and paint on there, didn't take well, and with opaque paint you can see right through it. I would have to use, I'd have to buy half of a paint store to paint these. So researching this, And okay, so hey, Willow Creek, how's it going? Um, so Split Rock, I will counter that and say that yeah, there are times where you need to cut styrene, and someday I'll try and prove that to you when we're at a meeting or something, because I can prove to you that you can scribe it and snap it, and it won't be a straight snap all the time. I have done that and had like jagged edges all over the place. Um, as a matter of fact, I believe that was happened with the when I was filling in the windows of the passenger car in order to um, build the um, doors. When I would describe it and I do three cuts, I do three deep cuts, and then it was ready to snap on the thicker styrene. It's still, I still had all these jagged edges. So, maybe I'm the exception to the rule. Maybe I'm that unique. I don't know. Okay, so the other thing that I still struggle with, and I struggle with it here, um, with the seams too, but it's all cardboard. So if you try to take the outer layer off, that slick layer, you're just tearing the cardboard and weakening the whole thing, and it won't work. So I searched around and searched around, and I don't understand how I came up with it. I don't remember, but this is covered. All of this is covered in gesso. And for those who may not be in the arts field, um, gesso is used on um, canvases. So canvases are woven material. And so what gesso does is it kind of fills in that woven material, and it acts like sort of like a primer. You sand you add the gesso, you sand it, and it creates a smooth surface to paint on. And it's a paint like material, so it acts as a primer too, so that the paint will stick. So, and what I was really trying to do is get rid of the lines that you always see around the cans where the seam is, because it's deep, and it actually creates a extra layer. And I don't know if you could see it well in this picture, um, but but there are seams in there. I had I had I like Vallejo paints just because I started with them and I'm just comfortable and they work for me. And so Vallejo does have a concrete color. Um, and you can see on the second one, um, I was trying to make it like real concrete. So when you look at pictures of silos that are made of concrete, sometimes because they build them in layers, there are just, you can actually see the layers are different colors, they're off slightly. Maybe there was some patchwork that they did, so maybe it's a darker color. And concrete itself isn't really a color, because concrete could be made up of different colors. And so the Vallejo one isn't bad, um, but you have to mix it at different levels to get different shades, I guess, out of it. So I was trying to do that here, and that's the only one I've painted so far on that, as well as I tried to get some differing levels of color on there, and give it some definition. This is just another picture of it in the same location. You can see the other sides aren't painted or anything. And so Matt, I've been wanting you to get back in and do those videos and show me how to paint. So I know you were doing them, and I know you and Evan were going and getting those done at one point. And there's so many techniques that I watch over and over again of miniature painters. One of my favorites that I haven't really used yet to try, and I always get the names of them mixed up, but you actually paint downward with a black onto the model, and it creates a shadow that you paint over with the colors that you want. Somebody else will probably know what that technique is. It's one of my favorites in painting miniatures and wanting to try and translate that to model railroading stuff. So I thought I would at least give it a try. Let's do that. Thanks for sticking with me as I figure this out. All right, so here it is up close and personal. So here's the basin, and this is actually the concrete color painted really dark. On the bottom of it, you can see how you can have different shades by the different thickness that you have, and that was probably unintentional. Figuring all this out and not knowing how to scratch build really was pretty interesting, and just trying to do it visually. But this is where the conveyor, I can never get that right, would sit in here, and I don't have it connected, so it doesn't stand up straight. So I filled it in on the bottom so that when I glue it in, it'll stay and it has more glue surface. And then that's styrene in the middle. I don't know if you can see that one right there. Oh, you can because it's not on camera. That one apparently didn't make it across because of my wonderful measuring skills. The others did. And you can see it was too long. And so before I understood wet sanding techniques and things, I could go back in and fix this now. But this just gives it character too. I can maybe put some rust streaks with that to cover up the fact that it's just the seam and just part of building it. And this was the first time I was able to do comfortable enough to do a curve, partly using that cutting tool, figuring out how to wrap a piece, and then I could have thinner styrene to wrap. So at some point I'll show you the silos I did from an old kit that I did in, I have 3 videos on the channel on it if you want to see, but the top of those silos, the pieces, it's like a T, because I had no confidence or no understanding about how to get something cut like this. But with a tool, it made it easier to do, and I figured it out. So this is the first time I cut styrene successfully in a curved shape. So anyway, so here is a kind of an up close of the powders. So they used to be called AIM powders. I actually have some here, but they're now made by a Minnesota company who bought them. Monroe Models is not too far from the Twin Cities, about an hour away. He shows up to all of the events and has tables there with all of his weathering powders and other stuff that he offers. But they're about I think they're about anywhere from 50 cents to $1 cheaper than pan pastels. And I'm no expert, but my understanding is they have slightly different properties and slightly different stickiness. And I think the pan pastels may stick a little bit better than these initially, but there are things you can do to manipulate that. anyway, so, you know, I use those to create this, and of course up close now it kind of looks a little more like powder. From a distance it looks kind of really neat with the rust. I was impressed with it. Here I did some, just where do you think it would be? Probably along the corners, you know, along the bottom you have some rust. And then this was simply, you know, like I said, this was a styrene sheet. I probably could measure that. Not sure if that's 30 or 40. That's probably 30 thou. And then I used wood to brace it on the inside, and a lot of gluing and re-gluing. Something that I had to figure out for the angle here is, how do I cut these angles in, and how do I do it on that side and that side and make it look like it fit right. And somehow I did. It doesn't look so bad. And I think that's how it would look, because I don't think it would necessarily be one continuous sheet that they would use. So that was the shed piece. So not a bad build. This was the intricate one and the toughest part of it. Thank you, Willow Creek. I appreciate that. Was getting this to work right, and the geometry, again, because I don't understand geometry or any of that stuff. But to make it look and work somewhat like it should, getting the angle pieces, and I must have run out of angle pieces at a certain size, because one of these does not look like the others. So one of these two, I think it's this one, is a smaller piece of angle styrene. And then I had to support it, and then I wanted to do, and these definitely don't look like the model, but they sort of look a little like they actually are supportive of the structure, of the metal structure. I've been see, you see them on the inside instead of the outside. Let's see here if I can get it on camera. But I even tried to do you know, the metal plates that support cross beams like that. Now, if I wanted to be really kind of really, here's another one, really detailed, I could get some nut bolt washers, those, or MBWs as most would say, those little tiny things that are just little round or hexagonal things, and I could put them on there and make the rivets. Or if I did this in 3D, it could be way more accurate than this and also have the rivets built in. But all in all, and again, I don't know what I did down at the bottom, but it pulled. Oh, I know why I did it. I don't know if we'll be able to see this, but for it to fit into here, it had to be a certain length and go in a certain way, and it was too, I think it was too thick, so it fit in just like that. And so that's why it's kind of bent in at the bottom. And then I did a terrible job at weathering this. From afar it looks fine, it looks weathered, but if you get close to it, if you're within those 3 feet, it doesn't look as good. It looks a little more artificial. So let's move those out of the way and bring in the food. Oh, so this came off. So here is the top piece. And this again was one of my favorite colors, and theirs was dark, that they used too. Oh no, maybe this isn't the. Yeah, this is the Panzer Dark Gray. That's my favorite color. And I tried on the bottom to make that look more like concrete, and it just kind of looked like the paint spilled over. But you don't see that as much. And then here are the tubes. So you can see inside the tubes a little bit. Here are the tubes up close. And on here, you can see the gesso on there. I sanded it down a little. Let's see if you can see this. Here's one of the seams right here. The problems with the seams on these is they're overlapping. So it's about, I don't know how thick that is, but it's noticeable coming up. And I suppose you might be able, with enough gesso on it, covering it, you might be able to sand it down low enough. But I think I even got low in here, and that's not a paint mark. That's a mark from the can. Yeah, and I don't know if you can see that, but there too, where the gesso isn't covering. These were a pain to cut too, because, and you can see I have some unevenness in cutting these. The tops I got pretty close, but or I should say the bottoms I got pretty close so that they would stand up, but they're still not even. So they're not even on the top. So that's part of the use of these strips here. And they're just styrene strips glued together and glued around it, and then it just fits on over the jagged edges. It should fit on, and then it fits on like that. So that is my show and tell for you tonight. I'm wondering, I may have been able to I don't remember what glue I used for it, for gluing the cans together. I don't think it was a glue gun, but a glue gun probably would have worked on there. So, yes, I suppose it's all, it is all scratch built. There's the commercial parts are the styrene, and I suppose the Pringles cans are commercial parts, but they're not already assembled parts. So yeah, this is all scratch built. That'll get me a good 15 points on a scratch built structure. I just need to find the other 70 to merit on a building like that. So I can't believe I've been talking for an hour and a half here. Well, maybe an hour and 20 minutes or so. I appreciate everybody stopping in. I hope that this gives you some inspiration to just jump in and try something, try to do something yourself. And like I always say, you may not like doing it. It may not be your thing. I can tell you shingling buildings are not my thing, and I'll definitely farm that out whenever I get the chance when I'm building something. But the whole idea is to just jump in and try, and you may find that you really like something. So, but for those that are hanging out, curious what if other people have tried scratch building. Do they, if you have tried it, do you like it? Do you not like it? Did it turn you off to building? Do you like kits better? I like kits. I got into craftsman kits. I finally listened myself and kind of burst that bubble and started doing craftsman kits. And so I don't love to do plastic kits. I do want to try to do, for the sake of the Twin Cities division, I did pick up at Model Railroad Club Gruesome Casket, or a version of it. I think it was a redone version by, was it AHM, who got permission from the original builder to produce it. It's got a lot of parts. There's also a Walthers Kit I do want to put on the layout that I currently have, and that's one of the Merchant Row buildings. Waiting for Gopher Girl to give me 5 different paint schemes to put on the 5 different buildings that are that make up the the Merchants Row. So those are plastic kits. I don't hate them or anything, but um, the bug hit, and both scratch building, both first kits and now scratch buildings really um, something. The idea of the creating is what I really like, and so um, so Randy, yeah. Um, One of the things that got me out of N scale was I didn't think that I could scratch build in N scale. I know you can. I've seen you do it. Um, but I don't know if I'm just not as confident in doing that. Um, when I built my N scale layout, everything was pretty much bought, and I started the wildest I got. Well, that's not true. The From a building standpoint, I got a DPM kit and I modified that, so I kit bashed it a little bit. So that was something, but most of the stuff was collected. I had this little Quonset hut that said fertilizer on it, and I had this little packet of 5 cows. So I put them in a pasture. I made a pasture out there, and I put the Quonset out there. And I was like, well, how do I contain the cows? And so one of my truly first scratch builds was fencing for the cows, and I made them out of toothpicks. So I have no, I'm assuming they weren't um, scale. It looked okay. It was, and it wasn't anything great, but that was the um, first scratch build. And Gopher Girl, you missed the N scale layout because you won't like destroying the people and making earthquakes and tornadoes and things happen on there that didn't really happen in real life. So, um, but anyway, as I was saying, so it's really I really caught the bug, and obvious, and I hope that's obvious because I'm scratching. Okay, I don't know if it qualifies for scratch building the cab car because the major parts are there in the shell and the frame. I probably for it to be qualifying as scratch build. If it's not the frame, I probably would have to scratch build the shell. Now that's a guess, and I think Tom or Ken probably could tell me I'm wrong on that one. Um, but still, the underbody was all styrene and scratch build. What I do want to certainly do is design those parts, continue to design those parts in 3D also, and see how they come out. Because if they come out nicer, then it's still scratch built because I designed them, and I'll modify them if they don't print well. So Michael will print them, and if they don't print or don't print well, or there are errors or things there, it'll be my modifications. Um, so. Um, you know so I guess it's probably super detailed, and so I'll continue to do that with the cars, and we'll compare my first attempt, the cab car, with one of the other passenger cars, hopefully with the scratch built but printed parts. Yeah, Randy, it yes, it'll definitely drive you nuts. The worst part of it is you keep looking at your source pictures, and you keep finding little details, and then you got to put the little detail in if you want it to look prototypical, and it's a rabbit hole that just never ends. So um, so I agree with that. So and as I was looking at the details, so on the front end of the cab car, not like, do I want to try and print the windshield wipers. I probably don't need to do that. I probably don't need, I probably have enough scratch built pieces to get most of the scratch built points on a super detailed car. Probably don't have to do it, but I mean, the challenge is there. The rabbit hole is open and I've fallen in. So I wouldn't be surprised if one night, instead of buying them and gluing them on, I'll try and design them and then see if Michael can print them. But yeah, like I said, I really hope that that this at least inspires you to try something. And I don't care what it is. Just try something you think you might enjoy. And if you do enjoy it, share with people that enjoyment, because then they get to enjoy something and we can, I'm one of the most negative Nelly kind of people out there, but I'm trying to be more positive. And I know model railroading makes me feel more positive. So, like I always say, just jump in. So I want to thank everybody again tonight for sticking with me. It's about an hour and a half now, and I know some people are needing to get to bed. Some people work in the morning, and you're probably sick of hearing me talk all this time. And I know there's chocolate waiting for me. I probably have to pull in some groceries from the car, but still there's chocolate on the end of the night for me. So everyone have a fantastic night, and remember to just jump in.